Did you notice? Summer is not like it used to be. The previous heat was drying. The current heat is more like a stuffiness hidden in the air. Airtight pressure. Hot during the day and hot at night. Even at 3 a.m., I will be woken up by the heat. Many people think it's just a weather anomaly. But the real problem may be Earth's largest thermal circulation system. It's getting disordered, and the source of all this all point to 3 words, El Niño. But here's the thing. What is El Niño exactly? Why does he appear every time the world starts to heat up? Rainstorm, drought. The floods broke out together, even food. Typhoon diseases can be affected. You can think of the Earth as a giant cauldron. The sun heats this pot every day. But here's the thing. Heat can't stay put forever. It has to be shipped. Otherwise the equator will get hotter and hotter. The poles are getting colder. And the real force responsible for transporting heat, not air, it was the ocean. Because the oceans store more than 90% of the Earth's heat. Particularly the equatorial Pacific. It's like the largest heat conveyor belt on Earth. Under normal circumstances, near the equator, there are permanent trade winds. It will be like a giant hand. Push the surface hot water to the west. So, a lot of hot water, stacked near Asia and Australia, and near South America, because the surface hot water is blown away. Cold water from the deep sea will keep surging up. This process is called upwelling. Note that this is very crucial. Because deep sea cold water is not just cold, it also carries a lot of nutrients. So off the coast of Peru, the fish industry is extremely rich in resources. Lots of fish. In fact, it depends on this deep sea nutrition to survive. But here's the thing. What if one day the envelope suddenly weakens? The hot water that was originally pushed to the west, it starts to flow backwards. The heat content of the entire Pacific Ocean cloth will be disrupted in an instant. And this is El Niño. Many people think that the seawater is getting hotter, right? What's the big deal? But here's where it gets really scary. Once the ocean gets hot, it doesn't affect a region at all. It's the circulation of the Earth's atmosphere. Because hot air will rise, cold air will drop, and ocean temperature directly determines how the air moves. It's like you suddenly put something in a pot. Crazy heating. The flow of water throughout the pot will change. So, the question is, why did El Niño come? Global weather is going crazy. Because the atmospheric circulation is disrupted, where it's supposed to rain may suddenly dry out. Originally dry places can be crazy rainstorms. The typhoon path will shift. The monsoon system will be abnormal. It gets warmer, even in winter. And here's what's really outrageous. Many people think the most dangerous thing about El Niño is the heat. Actually, no. His most dangerous is extreme. Because climate change is never your greatest fear. They fluctuate wildly. What is agriculture most afraid of? Not a little hotter. It's not when it's supposed to rain. It suddenly rained when it shouldn't have. And you know why? Are ancient civilizations particularly susceptible? Most of the times, it's not war. It's the climate. Droughts have occurred at the end of many dynasties in history. Flood, food, production, plague, social unrest. Because of agricultural civilization, it is essentially highly dependent on a stable climate, and one of the biggest fears of humanity right now. It's when El Niño and global warming start to stack up. Note that these two things are not the same thing. El Niño is a natural fluctuation. Global warming is long-term warming. You could put it this way, that El Niño is like global warming is like higher and higher oil temperatures. I used to order hot pot just to heat it up. But now the whole pot is almost boiling. You light the fire again, many extreme weather events will erupt directly. And here's what's really scary. The oceans are not just storing heat now, still storing energy. Because hot water evaporates more strongly, there will be more and more moisture in the air. And water vapor itself is a kind of energy. That's why. Now many rainstorms are getting more and more exaggerated. Because the air is already like a sponge full of water. Once released, it is a disaster and rain. But here's the problem. Since the ocean can absorb heat, isn't that a good thing? If there were no oceans, Earth may have become too hot to survive. The oceans have actually been carrying heat for humans. The problem is that he can't take it anymore. Because after the ocean absorbs heat, see, temperatures will rise. The amount of oxygen that warmer water can dissolve drops. So, a lot of marine life began to lack oxygen. Do you know why in recent years? Do you often see large-scale dead fish? One of the reasons is that the ocean is becoming a loxygen zone. What's even scarier, corals are bleaching massively. Many people think of coral as rock. In fact, coral is alive. They have a lot of symbiotic algae living inside them. The algae help them produce nutrients. But when the water gets too hot, the coral flushes all that algae out. So the whole coral will turn white in an instant. And once the grey hair lasts too long, entire coral ecosystems die. So, here's the problem. What does dead coral have to do with humans? The relationship, because there are more than 500 million people in the world directly dependent on coral ecology for survival. That includes fishing, tourism, wave protection, coastal protection, lots of coastline. It's actually the corals that are holding back the waves for humans. And what's really scary is not the ocean. It's the human body. Did you notice? Now, many places are starting to get hotter and hotter at night. That's the real danger signal. Because the most important heat dissipation time for the human body, it's actually night. After absorbing heat during the day, the body lowers its core temperature at night. It's called sleep metabolism, the most important stage of organ repair. But if the night temperature persists too high, the human body will never be able to dissipate heat. Heart pressure skyrocketing, sleep breakdown. Organs are constantly under high load. Many people with febrile fever don't even die during the day. He died suddenly in the wee hours of the morning, because the body has been unable to cool down all night. But here's the real big question. Why are humans so fragile? Because of human civilization was born in an unusually stable climate. 10,000 years have passed. The Earth's climate is very stable, and so agriculture was born, and cities were born. The population started to skyrocket. Civilization begins to expand. In other words, everything we take for granted today is based on a hidden premise. The climate has to be stable. But now that premise is starting to loosen. And Niño may be just one of the Earth's reminders to humanity. Many people to this day, I still think it's just a little hot this year. But the real problem is never a single summer, but the energy system of the entire Earth is entering a new state that has never been experienced before. And here's what's really dangerous. Humans may not have really realized it yet. The Earth didn't suddenly break down. He's just starting to approach that tipping point. Once the advance is broken, it will cause disasters that humanity cannot bear.